What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guys, Cody and Derek. Guys, we are wrapping up our look at the Colts free agents. Today, we are talking about Tier 2 guys. We already talked about Tier 1 guys, so be sure to go check that video out. But today, we're going to talk about some guys who maybe some of them played a little bit more. Maybe some of them didn't. Maybe some of them were role players. But overall, we're going to look at these guys, kind of give our thoughts on if it makes sense for the Colts to bring them back or if we'd be probably preferring them to look elsewhere for some of these guys. So we'll start with the offensive side of things. We'll talk about two guys that played some tackle, filled in for the Colts last year, Matt Pryor and Dennis Kelly. Now, Derek, both these guys for different reasons did not play and weren't in the starting. They played some starting reps, but they weren't the starters at the end of the year. And both of these guys really didn't play a whole lot at the end of the year. But what are your thoughts on Matt Pryor, Dennis Kelly, and would you have any interest in bringing either of those guys back? Why or why not?
Dennis would definitely be interesting to want to bring back. Even though this last year he had, several different injuries that kind of railroaded him a little bit. I think that it is fair to say that, he definitely still can be serviceable on this O-line, especially with the tackle depth that we need. For me, in no way, shape, or form am I bringing Matt Pryor back. We saw what happened this last year. I mean, even in times when we changed his role so many different ways. And it's so weird because, he was really good with Carson Wentz the previous year in 2021. And then in 2022, regardless of if his role changed or if anything, they moved him in so many different areas and he was bad at all of them. So it's not like, changing his position is necessarily going to make anything better. They put him at left tackle, right guard. He stunk at all of them. So it's kind of one of those situations where maybe he was the one-hit wonder. Maybe it was the one year that he actually did have something to prove. He proved it, and then he just couldn't repeat it afterwards. So I'm not going anywhere near him. I'll draft somebody late in the draft and get one. Or, as what we assume is going to happen, is Ballard's probably going to get a guy or two in free agency to solidify that offensive line group in total, because it was the one time he decided not to do that, and then it cost him a lot of games. So I expect them to let him test free agency and go get somebody else.
Probably. And you could probably get somebody for cheaper, and hopefully somebody who can actually touch a defensive lineman where they're getting after the quarterback. That would be definitely a welcomed addition. Another guy on the offense, this is the last guy we'll talk about on the offensive side of things, that is Ashton Dulin. Wide receiver for the Colts, kind of the wide receiver for Indy last year. He did obviously have that injury, so we didn't play the full year. But I always have felt like he's a solid wide receiver when given the opportunity. And also he plays special teams and is one of the biggest guys there that contributes on the special teams unit. So what are your thoughts on the Colts bringing him back?
Yeah, Ashton Dulin, I mean, great special teams guys. We always say every year that's pretty much the argument for wanting to continue to keep bringing him back. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, wide receiver 4 at best when it comes to particular instances. Who knows if Shane Steichen is going to be able to get more out of him as a wide receiver? I'm not sure. I mean, he's kind of always had the same role as what Paris Campbell has had, that occasional burner, occasional, screen and occasional jet sweep and other things. And, he does pretty good in those limited snaps that he does have it. But ultimately, again, he's been one of our best special teams guys for years and years. So it is important that we kind of keep him back. I mean, I don't see anyone else lining up at the door to go and get him either way. So I feel like it should be pretty easy, fairly simple to bring somebody like Ashton Dulin back into the fold.
All right, let's move on to the defensive side of things. We'll talk about two guys, two former second-round picks, and for different reasons, they have not really played a big role for the Colts, or they didn't last year, I should say. Tyquan Lewis, obviously he had some moments, but he suffered another major injury, and then Ben Banigou's just flat-out been bad. What are your thoughts on bringing maybe these guys back, the arguments for and the arguments against?
It's it's kind of important to be able to get that kind of depth. When we talk about, Taekwon, Ben Banigou, Byron Cowart, bunch of defensive linemen, it's all about, I don't know. We kind of thought Ben Banigou was going to get the boot last year, and we didn't end up getting to see that. I mean, we thought that was going to be the exception, but I don't know if things are different this year. I don't know how that's going to look. Again, we thought it was a done deal last year. It didn't work out. And I don't even, did he even play last year at all? He might have had a few
don't
snaps,
remember him.
I mean, but Taekwon, I feel is going to get another one. Again, we know how Chris Ballard feels about Taekwon Lewis. The freak injuries, it sucks, I mean, and it's really unfortunate that the Indianapolis Colts have drafted a few guys in the last few years that have had really unfortunate injury problems. But, I mean, that's just sometimes how that works. Some guys end up having it worse than others. But there's no doubt, though, that when Taekwon Lewis is on the football field, that he provides very productive depth with this team, which I certainly hope that will entice Ballard to say, hey, we're still going to give you, a vet minimum. We want to keep you around, but we also want to secure ourselves knowing what kind of injuries you have had, but we want to see you continue to be out here with this team. Hope that's enough. Byron Cowart, I mean, it's just another defensive tackle piece. I could take it or leave it when it comes to anything like that. There's a bunch of different guys like this that move around the league a lot. Hopefully, we can see him stay on the team, but if not, I mean, Ballard will take his luck somewhere else.
Or what's your thoughts on bringing back Tony Brown? He was more of the depth piece, special teams kind of guy. Would you bring him back?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think he's a very solid guy that, showed a lot in the preseason. He could end up being that corner piece, depth piece that we need. We talk about Dallas Flowers being that a lot too. But Tony Brown, who knows? I mean, I don't know if Ballard's going to take the chance on it just with the fact that, he's a practice squad guy at the most for times like that. So maybe Ballard just doesn't really deem it to be important.
All right, I have two more guys here that we can talk about. Armani Watts, who did not play a snap last year for the Colts because he suffered an injury before the season.
Yep.
And then Matt Hawk, who was the fill-in punter for the Colts last year. What are your thoughts on these two individuals?
Armani Watts, yeah, really unfortunate. What happened to him, ended up getting hurt in the preseason, the first preseason game. I think it was the ACL. And that just took a crapper to his career that season. Really sucks, but maybe I think just due to the fact that the Colts are so filled with safety depth, you don't need to worry about it. But then again, of course, if you wanted to continue to bring Armani Watts back, it probably wouldn't be difficult to do so because you would be in a loaded safety room. But then again, you would be cheap and he could be a special teams guy for you. So that definitely helps. Matt Hawk, I'll tell you what, man, I was half tempted early in the year. I mean, early in the year, he did a fantastic job of punting and taking over kicking. He actually did a really fantastic job early in the year. And then at the end of the year, I don't know if the leg gave out or he just didn't care anymore, but his leg just wasn't the same at the back end of the year. He was barely kicking above 40 yards on net punts. And, when they tried him kicking earlier in the year, he ended up losing that to McLaughlin because Hawk was having issues keeping it inside the hash marks as well. So it's really odd what happened with Matt Hawk. But at the end of the day, Rigoberto Sanchez is coming back. So I mean, there's just almost no reason to keep him around.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really just for different reasons with both these guys, maybe similar reasons in certain ways where it's like, I mean, there's better guys that are already on the roster that we think are going to do a better job. So Armani Watts, I could be potentially talked into just to bring him back, maybe special teams. But again, like, is he going to be your fifth safety? Like, where's he going to fit? I mean, you already got Blackman. You already, You already have Rodney McLeod. Maybe if you re-sign him, you already have Rodney Thomas and Nick Cross. So I don't really know where his role is necessarily, but maybe you do bring him back and let him compete out. I don't know, but yeah, that'll do it, guys. A little bit shorter video here, not a whole lot, a little more black and white on some of these guys. Not a whole lot of discussions for the tier 2 free agents, but since we did a tier 1, we want to just kind of talk about some of the other guys on the roster. There was a few guys we didn't include that really did not play at all for the Colts, and so we didn't include them on this list. Let us know your thoughts on the tier 2 free agents, any guys that you would potentially be interested in the Colts bringing back or not. Let us know those things in the comments below, but that will do it for this one, guys. Thanks so much, and as always, go Colts.